In Corvallis, we've been kind of reassessing what we want to do about outreach because we feel like we should try to get out of our comfort zone. Because Corvallis, when it comes to universal health care, is definitely a comfort zone. Legislators who come to Corvallis to speak about it say, if Corvallis were Oregon, we'd already have single payer. That's the kind of place we are. And I think maybe Ashland is kind of in that territory too. Yeah, almost a sister city with Corvallis in that respect. But we feel like we need to expand beyond that and get out of our comfort zone and start talking to all those other people who are not necessarily on board with the idea of universal health care. But we also think that to do that, we need to change our approach a little bit. So the slide that's not up there suggests that we might want to think about changing the title of this exercise from persuasive speaking to persuasive engagement. And you might say, okay, what's the difference? To me, persuasive speaking is more the speaker is in control and is telling people to the people in the audience, is showing a slideshow, is showing a movie, is directing the discussion. So it's speaker out to the audience. Whereas persuasive engagement ideally would just be a discussion between the person leading or facilitating the discussion and the rest of the audience. So this actually is an idea that comes from a man named Carl Rogers. If you know who Carl Rogers is, he was a psychologist in the 1950s. He was a little dismayed about the quality of discussion going on in the United States at the time, which was the McCarthy era. Many of you might know about the McCarthy era. Everything was extremely, very extreme, very antagonistic, very, yeah, just put any bad adjective you can think of is the way the discussion was at the time, which I think has certain parallel with our current situation in the country. So Carl Rogers thought we need a better way to discuss things. So he came up with a system. And basically what his system is you should always begin with listening. Right? You should not get into a discussion with somebody and immediately start telling them your points of why we have universal health care and what the problems are with our current health care system. You should instead encourage them to tell you what they think about health care in Oregon, in the United States. So this has several advantages, and we've actually already discussed this a little bit today. It goes back to what Stan Betz said when he said that single payer will not be built from information. Single payer will be built from relationships. And I also noticed that wherever he went, Mr. Mike Huntington changed his original slide from persuasive speaking to persuasive listening and speaking. And he's also mentioned it with regard to knock every door, because knock every door also employs this technique. Encourages you to go up to the door, and when someone comes there, you don't start regaling them with information about single-payer health care. You say, what do you think about your health care? Are you satisfied with it? Have any problems? You think there's something you could be doing differently about health care? And you are perfectly willing to tell you what they think, right? Most people are perfectly willing to tell you what they think about things. So I would suggest that even in like situations like this, you're going to some community organization or a church or somewhere to talk about health care, that this would be a better approach to take. Rather than getting out there, introducing yourself, having a little bit of interaction with the audience, and then immediately launching into a film, or launching into 30 or 40 slides where you're explaining all about the healthcare system and universal healthcare. The problem with that is it works okay with people who already agree with you, but people who don't already agree with you are going to feel like you're lecturing, right? Most people don't react to that very well. So the way to avoid that, I feel, is to let them talk first. You get up there, you introduce yourself, you tell a couple stories, and then you say, okay, I know what I think about healthcare and about the ideas of how we might improve healthcare. I want to know what you think. So would somebody here be willing to tell me what you think about our current healthcare system and what I do differently about it? And most likely, at least one person in that audience is going to say, yeah, I'll tell you what I think about that. Go off, grab the microphone, and start telling you what they think. And then somebody else in the audience is going to think, oh, yeah, I know something about that too. The job, something that person says. They'll grab the microphone and they'll talk. And at that point, I would suggest the best thing to do is just kind of direct the conversation, just let it go until it kind of runs out. Two advantages to that. The first one is the people in the room will be a long way towards conclusion, right? Because they took the lead, they told you what they think. So they feel like, oh yeah, I got that off my chest. And they might be more willing to listen to what you have to say. All right, okay, I had my say, I'll let this guy have his say. So that's one of the advantages. The other advantage is you've been listening all this time, and now you know where they stand on this subject. You know what their concerns are, you know what the real hot points are in the audience. Therefore, you can modify how you're going to address them with what you want to say about universal health care. So psychologists will tell you, realistically, if you're facing a somewhat antagonistic audience, you're not going to feel like in one short discussion, right? But what you can hope to do is nudge them. I know nudge was a real buzzword about 2 years ago. People were talking about, oh, you nudge somebody. And instead of going this direction, they go this direction, which doesn't make a very big difference at the beginning. But when you get out their ways, it can make a significant difference in their attitude. So like Mike was saying about getting Mike Neerman or somebody else like that, not to say, I don't believe single payer health care, will never have single payer in this country, to saying, I'm not really enthusiastic about single payer. I have some real doubts about it. Get him to tone it down, right? That's what we can hope for, right? But you might also think of it as putting a bug in their ear. Maybe people, if you say something to them and they see something in the news, and they say, oh, that guy I talked to at that meeting said something about that. They might actually restart to say, oh, I want to see whether that guy knew what he's talking about. All right? So we've got to just move people in the direction we want them to go. So, still don't have my slides up there? Oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, that's another point I want to make, is my feeling watching a lot of the presentations that we do is that long videos and long slideshows are not the best way, because it's essentially a passive way of people being at that meeting and taking in information. People don't remember things nearly as well if they're doing it passively as they do if they're doing it actively, right? So I really believe that that's a very positive benefit because they're feeling engaged in the process. You can go to my last slide now. I don't want to go here too long. One more slide. All right. The good news says up top. You can't see it, but it says the good news. It's not quite the same good news that some people mean when they come and say happy birthday news. This is a different good news.
They also come to your door.
Yeah, they come to your door and any other place, and they don't let you talk first. They're usually right into it. The good news to me is I see a real shift in this country towards concern about our healthcare system. Right? It's a little bit difficult to find conservative people in Corvallis, but I do meet them occasionally at the farmer's market or something like that when I'm tabling. And what I find is that even though they may not agree with the idea of universal health care, they do agree there's a problem. Right? They see the healthcare system, they say it's much too expensive, those drug companies need to be brought into line. They see that there's a problem, right? So they're halfway there, right? They're admitting the problem. What we need to do is just keep moving a little bit at a time towards what the solution would be to those problems. Probably they don't agree with you at this point what the solution is, but we can just keep pushing them in the direction that we would like them to go and the solution we would like to see. Right? So I really think this is a great time to be an advocate for healthcare. There is so much interest and so much concern in the country, not just in Oregon, about this issue. So I'm very excited because I really think we're going to get there. And I don't even think it's going to take that long for us to do it. Yeah, healthcare for all, right? Okay, I'm done. Did anyone have any questions or comments? Yes.
Well, it goes back to the canvassing, but I wasn't clear whether you all are advocating for us to do one particular project or to go out and canvass and do anything you want to do.
Maybe Mike would be the better. He's the spearhead. Knock every door in Mid-Valley, so maybe you could respond to that.
Mike, you can go over where he is. The microphone will pick you up if anybody's still on Zoom.
All right. I present Mike Cunningham.
So, thanks for the question. National Nurses United has made it pretty easy for us to follow a script if we want to, and a method. And as far as what we ask people to sign up with, we can choose what it is. For the national movement is you of course listen to them, you tell your story, you agree that there's a problem, and then you offer Medicare for all is one thing that we're considering nationally. And with, if they want more information, you can tell them that it's Senate Bill 1804, Senator Sanders' bill, and in the House it's HR 676. They may not get that far with you in the conversation. You may just have to leave them with Medicare for all. But if they're interested and if they have local concerns in the states, for example, you can go into detail with that one paper, this one, that we want Senator Wyden to sign on to universal health care, and we thank Senator Merkley for signing on. But then on the back, you can take a local state issue to your local representatives. Please help us all get access to health care. That may be all you can say to a very conservative legislator. If you have someone that already knows about single payer, we're introducing a bill for universal health care again this year. We hope you pay close attention to it. You have to hear what you say.
Yes.
Thank you very much. You know, on the question of big, overwhelming, fundamental thing Healthcare for All Oregon is doing is building our database. We're now over 31,000 people statewide. That sounds great, but we need to get to 60 or 80,000. And so really what this is about is not just finding out your neighbor is on board and yeah, they'll help out with the next canvas. We're getting all these people on our statewide database. That is one of the most fundamental things when we asked, did everyone sign up here today? There could be people in this room who are not on our statewide database. So what that allows us to do is this is a statewide movement. It's not going to be born in one, Portland, Eugene, and left-leaning Ashland, Oregon. It's going to be one in Klamath Falls and in Bandon and in Pendleton, Oregon. And so that's, I think, one of the fundamental things we're doing. We've got to build this database. We've got to get it bigger. Thank you.
Well, there was a reference in the paperwork to an HCA support statement, and there's nothing in the paperwork.
Oh, yeah, there is. It's part of the National Nurses United Act, and so it's in this way of entering data as one little square at a time, and I'm not sure we can go down. And what you do, if they're willing to give their information, as much as they're willing, you include the phone number, whether they have a story they're willing to tell, you write all that down and fill the sheets both sides, and then you photograph it. And then you send it to your local data person in your group and to National Nurses United, and the literature tells you how to do that. So that's how you do it.
Right, and if I may add to what he said, I have to admit that kind of temperamentally, I'm not a real fan of canvassing. I don't really like going up to people's doors of people I don't know and knocking on them. I've done it a few times now, though, and I've actually found it fine. I really enjoy the conversations we have. And I'm now chairman of outreach, and I want to make outreach as effective as possible. And I think knock every door is an extremely effective way of meeting people, talking to people, and getting their names, as he suggests we would like to do. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just have one question. The way I understand it is whether you call it universal healthcare benefit for all or single payer, depends on who you're talking to. Because like Medicare for all, I know people use that a lot, but that implies you're still keeping the insurance companies in it. At least that's what Medicare has. Insurance companies.
Well, it does.
So
I think.
single payer is a little different, and I'm always a little confused about what to use. Or does it depend on who you're talking to and what their knowledge is?
Well, I don't think it's even that simple because people disagree about what the terms mean. Usually when we talk about Medicare for all, we say improved Medicare for all. Because what we would like to see ideally is Medicare where there are no deductibles, no prepays, no copays, none. At point of service, you don't pay them.
So
Right.
single payer.
Yeah, well, single payer, although many countries that have universal health care say they have a single payer system, but in I think all of the systems, some kind of payment is involved, right? Yeah, some kind of copay is quite common in these systems. So it's all a matter of definition, and people are not all in accord.
That's one thing.
Yeah, well, if there was a page to be. Yes.
If you want to participate and have a local meeting once a month on the first Sunday of the month, plus there are committees in CAO and Rogue Valley. We have an educational committee and we have other committees that you can participate in. The only way you're going to get this is by participating. If you go door to door, like you're the first one in your neighborhood, let's say, to come to a meeting, to know where to go. So we gather all the information and we put out where we want to go. We are a board and we, talk about the things that are important in our valley. And Joe goes meets with new people and we explain what HCAO is about. So, anyone, you can just call Joe and he'll come and we'll talk to you and what you're interested in, what you want to do, and how much time you can do. And it's all on the local level. Because as you go, we have, Sandra is on the legislative committee, but locally, we started here. So we want it here to be big and strong, and in your valley also. So all of Oregon can go forward together.
Right.
I think these questions illustrate how important it is for us as a community here in this room be aware of how different our situations are from those of the other people. And the strategy you choose to achieve the outreach goal should depend on what your neighborhood is like. So we talked in the Grove Valley chapter a lot about house parties. Because house parties, we are likely to gather together a group that is pretty supportive of single payer, that will allow some of us to feel good about already coming to it, and allow us to nudge some other people. But I remember a conversation with Bill and Shirley in Des Moines after a very successful film series there, when I was making house parties. And Shirley said, Sandra, if I invite my neighbors to a house party, the opponents will go out and look at the supporters, and I'll lose control. That's same thing can happen to you if you go canvassing in a neighborhood where everybody votes. You'll get so depressed, you won't want to do it anymore. So you've got to pick an activity that will give you and your team personal reinforcement, a feeling of satisfaction. At the same time, the team gets a little bit out of its comfort zone. We're going to do it step at a time, but do what's right for your place. It's not a one-size-fits-all game in the Grove Valley in Southern Oregon. Not.
Well, or anywhere else. That's true. Yeah.
We're a poster child. We've had
Yeah.
some of the most liberal and some of the most conservative.
Yeah, interesting
In
mix.
this state.
Yeah. That's for sure.
You said that you were not comfortable with canvassing, but you're the outreach person.
Yeah.
What other technique do you use in Corvallis besides not whatever you write?
Well, we do a lot of the usual things. We table a lot. We have traditionally tabled.
Where do
a
you
lot.
table?
We table at the farmers market. We table at any political events that occur within Corvallis. There are a lot of organizations that are fairly liberally oriented in Corvallis, in Corvallis. We're trying to focus a lot on diversity because we really would like to reach younger people. We don't have people in the room.
And see if they want to do
Not
any.
too many of us are younger. Right? But we would really like to reach those people. In my experience, I have two children who are in their 20s. They're ready for this. In fact, my son harangues me about why haven't you got this done yet? Yeah, he's totally on board. And I think a lot of millennials are nervous about the future for a lot of reasons. They're nervous about climate change. They're nervous about what the economy is going to be like later in their lifetimes. And they're worried about what they're going to get for health care in their lives. Worry is there. We've got to reach out to them.
Particularly, how do you reach out to your university?
We're trying to work mainly through clubs and organizations on the OSU campus. They do have a public health department in there, and there's a public health club, and there's also other, related organizations on the campus. So we try to get agreement from professors to let us go into a class and talk to the class about it. We try to go to club meetings on campus and talk to the club about it. We also just try to track events that occur through the academic year. They often have these things in the mall of the university on various things, and sometimes we can get a table there and talk to people about healthcare.
So this knock on every door to me sounds really great. But I'm a little concerned, especially in an already liberal area, that the person might get 6 different people knocking on their door. Is there some coordination?
That's what the maps are for. He touched on it very lightly, but the Google map is, the one he showed is for my neighborhood, because we did this in my neighborhood. And it shows, a number of maybe 15 to 20 blocks.
So once you connect with HCAO, which has the data on the maps about your neighborhood's already been.
There's a way you can take the data sheet.
Your chapter should coordinate this.
Yeah.
So the Road Valley chapter will coordinate this in these areas, but we have people here from outlying areas that are going to be coordinating their own. Okay. Absolutely. absolutely coordinate the program.
Okay, we probably need to go
Oh,
on.
Brandon.
Wes?
Yeah, just two events. Martin Luther King Day in Ashland, Oregon, there's one in Medford too. If we can get, we need 10 people in Ashland for this. It's the easiest, I don't care what your progressive issue is, that lineup is the easiest to get signatures anywhere, and they do a celebration in Medford. And Carol's shaking her head, yes, she knows this is true. We're gonna be doing this, and we want you there. We need a good group in Medford. And I will say that we did the NNU deep canvassing once already. You folks know that. 3 people in the room did it. There's 3 others who did it. We're now talking about February doing another one. So the very thing we're talking about here, may I suggest, come to the January meeting of Healthcare for All Oregon Rogue Valley. We hope to have the date already set up in February. And if you remind people for the meeting, it's right in this room. Have you been to a meeting before? So
Our January meeting is going to be in the library.
see what I said?
So don't come to this room. It'll be still in the Adams room, right? The library item. And it'll be at 3 o'clock in the Medford Library. Not the Ashland Library, not the Talent Phoenix Library, Medford.
Okay, thank you all very much. I think we need to move on to Bruce Thompson. He has our next presentation.
Thanks, Mark.